On this episode, we discuss the season premiere of Raw, NXT taking over, WWE 2K15, Ziggler vs. Miz, and favorite pay-per-views now on Byte That. Welcome everyone to episode 55 of Byte That, the somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which are American males. Thank you for taking some of your very busy time for checking out the show. Remember, you can check it out every single Tuesday night on iTunes, Stitcher, youtube.com/ByteThatCast, and ByteThat.com. And if you like the show, support us by subscribing to any of the available options and also spreading the word. Tell your friends and keep the family growing. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. And as always, I'm joined by the full gang. First, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, Ryan McNulty.
Vaughn, I am here, but I may have less of a presence on this week's show. There's a lot of commotion going on around my apartment, so I might be talking at a minimum. We'll see how things go, but I'm going to try and minimize my role this week, but still staying strong and staying in the show.
You know what matters is that you have perfect attendance, mister. So the fact that you're here right now, that's what people care about. That's why you're the sex stallion. Somebody else that's trying to take over that role from the Double F in Manitoba, we got Keith Poshik.
My favorite American male is the one that wasn't Marcus Bagwell.
Ooh, the one that nobody knows about, the mystery man.
Exactly, the mystery male.
I get you, sir. So this is actually feeling kind of nice. I think that given everything that happened on Raw, we have a pretty packed show to talk about. I mean, I had to just write this down because obviously we'll get to the whole season premiere thing, which is just what the hell is the season premiere? But we got a cage match open Raw. Dolph Ziggler got mic time. NXT invaded Raw. We saw too many limes. Jerry Springer, a tag team feud got time. A bunny got super kicked a gator and then flew, and we got our SummerSlam rematch. That was all on the same show.
We finally got a good Raw. I mean, it's been a drought for a while, but this is a Raw that we actually have things to talk about. OMG.
Exactly. It's very nice because I think that last week's show got some of the most negative attention. Oddly enough, last week we talked about the previous episode getting all this negative reaction, and then it's just been overwhelming.
You mentioned that this week was a season premiere, which makes last week's Raw a season finale. Does that make it the worst season finale in the history of television?
There is no way I would watch if that was the actual season finale. I think that it was obviously their cheap way of just sort of justifying changing things up a little bit, and definitely, I mean, with the NXT stuff, we'll be talking about that, but I first want to get to the whole season premiere thing. Just what does that mean in wrestling? It doesn't take a break.
I kind of get why they would have the season labeling and things just for cataloging purposes, because there happen to be, besides maybe the news, the only other show that runs, 52 weeks a year or whatever. So I think they, obviously they have that whole season premiere, season finale for labeling purposes. So it's just very odd that they also mention on the show and try and make a big deal out of it when essentially it means nothing. There's no, off-season wait in between. It's, last week was the season finale and we're continuing right along the following week. So it's really just for TV labeling, and they make a big deal to make a big deal.
Have they ever mentioned anything about seasons or series in the WWE?
Yeah, they've done that a couple times, and it's usually when things like this happen, when they want to sort of switch things up, it's basically their way of saying, we're going to do something different. Because, I mean, you look at any other TV show, and you don't hear in the first episode the characters going, hey, we're back. You don't hear that. But, I mean, there was backstage segments where we heard the word season premiere from Randy Orton, Triple H. Kane was, overly enthusiastic about it. It was certainly something else.
Maybe, just maybe, they've outsmarted all of us and have been slowly killing all of our favorite characters off over these last couple of episodes. Think about it. Ambrose is gone, Bryan's gone, everybody died this season. What do we have to look forward to now?
Oh, my brother, justify.
Boom.
But did this help? Before Raw actually came on, we heard that it was going to be a season premiere. Did that raise your expectations as to what we could get on the episode?
I think it did raise my expectations because it's not just a normal Raw now. It's this quote-unquote season premiere. So you do expect something to happen, and usually when these Raws do happen, they usually meet expectations. Obviously, sometimes they don't, but this one did.
I think season premiere means absolutely nothing except for a false way to try and gather excitement for the audience. The main reason they probably tried to make this Raw a little bit better was because this is the first week of Monday Night Football.
Exactly, so there are a lot of factors that play into this, but what matters is that overall, we actually got a very good Raw. You saw people interacting on social media and speaking positively. I mean, just before we hit the record button, I was checking out, Twitter and all that, and it's nice. Hopefully, this keeps rolling. It's certainly been a rough month, essentially. So that's why I just really want to get to all the things that happen on Raw. Now, something that was not promoted at all on Monday Night Raw, on social media or something, until just maybe 2 minutes before it actually happened. We got a promotion for NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way is the brand new name. It's going to be taking place on Thursday on the WWE Network. And then quickly after that, they were like, up next, tag team match, Sami Zayn and all that. And I'm just like, what? Because I thought maybe they were going to play a highlight or something, but here we go. We got NXT action with the exception of Tyson Kidd. We saw 3 guys that have never been live on television on Raw. And how awesome was that?
I thought it was one of the coolest things they've done. This was really awesome, not only to help the network, but also just to, give NXT just a little bit more of a push that I think it needed, and I think this will get a lot of fans interested. I think this match, the way they did it was perfect. It didn't go on too long because these are all new characters that the audience is not familiar with. So they did it perfectly to make the champion look like a superstar and to make you want to go damn, I get to see that guy. I've never seen these moves before in my life. So it was perfectly done.
Exactly. It was just an overall solid match. Plus, like you said, Neville got to hit the red arrow, which he executed perfectly. But I tweeted it out at twitter.com/ByteThatCast during the match. Do you guys feel that this match was a way more effective way to sell the network than this whole $9.99 shilling thing that they've been doing for months?
Of course, because actions speak louder than words. I can talk about something all I want, but guess what? Actually seeing it made me go
I need to watch this.
Exactly. Hey, what they're talking about is actually cool. I should probably go check it out.
No, I completely agree. And by the way, I think the commotion may have ended, so I might be able to talk more than I originally thought. So, yay on that.
Cue bear attack.
No, Keith, you make a great point because you do have things on the network, exclusive wrestling shows such as Main Event, but NXT is truly the unique thing on the network where it's you can't see these guys anywhere else. So that kind of makes them a great selling point. And to have them on Raw to just show off, and especially a guy like Adrian Neville who's so unique in a lot of the moves he does, that is far better than this $9.99 stuff. It's, hey, we're going to give you a taste of this awesome content you can see on the network. Now go check it out.
Plus the fact that they didn't really promote it or really go into a backstory about who these guys are helped it, because now you're kind of thinking to yourself, hey, I need to see who they are. I want to find out why this Tyler Breeze is the Prince of Pretty and all that stuff.
Exactly. It raised intrigue because as opposed to, once again, just talking so much about something, they were like, hey, after the commercial break, 3 guys that you've never seen, and then this other guy that you've sort of seen but has sort of failed, and now he's doing this other thing, he's going to be on.
It's almost like it was the anti-wrestling segment. Let your brain wrap around that one for a minute, okay? Because in wrestling, a big thing is they take every single point and every single fact and then they shove it down your throat for weeks and weeks and weeks. But here it was just hey, here's guys, you've never seen them. They're going to do cool things. Find out more.
No, and it was so perfectly executed. one thing that I've never seen for such a very long time was how thankful everybody was to Triple H. He even tweeted a picture after the match, just sort of pointing at Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn on a TV. And it was so interesting because from the match perspective, you got Tyson Kidd, who really just was on the background. You know, he was doing the rest holds. He wasn't really being too flashy because people, even though they may not remember him, he's been involved in WWE. And you had the spotlight once again on the champion and on Sami Zayn, which people, enough people knew about him to the point where they were chanting "Ole Ole." You had Tyler Breeze shine as this interesting character that you didn't get too much about, but once again, it raises intrigue. Obviously, match psychology was sped up. The match felt like it was going in fast forward because, once again, they want to capture that attention. There was not a single botch. You got high flying, you got a little bit of mat wrestling, you got the high flying finish, and the look on people's faces, getting people invested. The crowd at the beginning of the match was silent. And, it hurts. I felt like it was like a brother. Yeah. It was like when your brother's on TV or something. It's like, oh, I know him. He's on there. You got to check him out. You haven't seen him? And then to see at the end of the match, people were applauding. How often do you see that on Raw? We make fun of just mainstream wrestling for being, they care about the characters and that's it. These are people that they had no previous exposure to, yet at the beginning you could tell people were just wondering who they are, how can I watch them, and how much does it cost to watch them.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, another way it was great is, even though we didn't get to see all the strengths of all the guys, because you can only do so much in a short amount of time, you were able to give them something they hadn't seen before. And that's what makes, Sami Zayn and Neville so special in that, right? And, yeah, sure, we don't get to see as much of Tyler Breeze and stuff, but you can only throw so much at a person at one time. So the way that they did it was perfect.
And even though it's something that, not that we haven't seen it before, but it's almost a lost art, the commentators, the announcer team, it was just like, whoa, what is this? They're building talent, they're putting them over, and they're taking them seriously. They were talking about these guys like, oh, whoa, like this Adrian Neville. He's one of the most exciting people I've seen. When's the last time you see that? Usually they'll talk about a match, and then half the other part of the match is just, plugging whatever segment's going to be up. But here they were just investing time on this.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, exactly. To actually have, the commentary come in and really support these guys instead of, going off topic or whatever. Because especially, a match usually in this kind of spot isn't treated too fairly. Or, if it's not a big match with, one of the main event guys, the commentators are kind of off focus and don't care as much. So it was really nice for them to really be trying to get behind these guys and put them over, because also, they got to plug the event too.
Speaking of the event, how hype are we for TakeOver now? Extremely? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's so nice because you have that build-up of, once again, like, I already cared about these matches, but now it's also like, oh, I know more people are going to watch this. Like, it's going to be not so much more of the matches, but what's going to happen after. We talked about the previous TakeOver. You can check out our review at the YouTube channel, and after each of these big events, it's always like, okay, who's going to be called up now? Who's going to change character? What's going to happen now? It's almost not necessarily a reset button, but definitely a new face. So with this on Raw, anything is possible. And the last thing that I want to bring up, because we will be talking about TakeOver next week once we see the show, once we see everything that happens, is how big of a risk is WWE taking with this? I mean, think about it. You are spending advertising time, spending a large chunk of not one, not two, not three, but four guys that really have not been developed. Commentators are talking about these guys that people didn't really know about, and that was it. It was just one block, one huge risk, and one big payoff for some of us.
Yeah, I think it was a huge risk. Like, imagine if somebody botched really bad during that match. It would just make the whole NXT product look weak, maybe even beyond repair. But thank God it didn't.
Exactly. So NXT TakeOver is going to be taking place this Thursday. We'll definitely be talking about it on the podcast next week. So many great matches. We got a Fatal 4-Way match. We got a Golden Retriever is going to be in action. We got hair versus hair. So much stuff. So much good time. So before going any further, let us know. Are you hype about NXT being on Raw? Or at the same time, I'm curious, how many of you, is this your first time actually witnessing NXT talent? And what was your reaction? You know, was it spotty? Was it high flying? Was it action? Are you happy? Because once again, we've been exposed to these individuals, but what about the people that haven't? Let us know by sending us a tweet, Byte That Cast, or by leaving a comment on the YouTube channel. Now, as we go back to more traditional Raw matters, we've seen this odd but awesome development, no pun intended, in the Miz, Ziggler, Sandow. Yeah, I'm pretty awesome about that. Ziggler actually got some mic time. That first was pretty amazing. Obviously, we can talk a little bit about the whole Photoshop thing, even though it wasn't really Photoshop, but obviously taking advantage of what happened last week with the fappening or the stealing of the iPhone photos that happened with the whole cloud situation. So, part one, what was your reaction when you found out it was going to be that type of segment?
I mean, the gut reaction, thanks to John Cena's abuse of it, is, oh God, another Photoshop segment. By the way, thank you for using the word fappening in this podcast. I cannot express how happy I am. But no, it felt like, oh God, they're going to use Dolph for this bull poo, but no, it ended up being not bad.
Yeah, I was really happy that it wasn't going to be another Photoshop thing where we're supposed to believe that, you know, these guys went out of their way on their computers with Photoshop and all that to get it done. The only thing is with these photos, and I'm going to be super smarky nitpicky.
Let's talk kayfabe for a minute here.
Who is taking these photos? I mean, especially the one where you get Sandow in there. It's like, it's one thing if it was Sandow taking the picture.
And the quality.
The quality looks like it's exactly from, you know, WWE's, WWE.com's like photo gallery. Like, that's what it looks like it's from. When it's like, why didn't you just have Miz use his cell phone and take a couple selfies? And then there you go. It at least looks a little more authentic. So that's my little nitpickiness.
What if he took a selfie of Sandow doing that?
Exactly. Like, how is that?
Thing?
Does that looks a lot more realistic or whatever, you know. Shut up, Smark. I'm done.
No, but at least it wasn't the whole Photoshop thing. Now, obviously, there are those things we can get all super smarky about. Shut up, Smark Rhino. But, you know, it was nice that at least we got Ziggler with a little bit of character. The crowd was actually invested in that. But then the other thing I got to bring up is how awesome is that whole pairing of, you know, Miz and Sandow.
Well, exactly. I talked to you guys yesterday while we were watching Raw. And just the amazing thing of it, and especially how Sandow was mimicking every motion that The Miz was doing when he was walking down to the ramp, that was absolutely gold. The best part of this is he's supposed to be like the stunt double, yet he looks nothing like The Miz, and that's what makes it hilarious. Because they could have picked someone else that maybe looked a little bit closer to The Miz in looks or whatever, more of like the pretty boy type. But the fact that Sandow has the full-on beard and he's supposed to be like the stand-in and everything, it's great. I love it.
So are you looking forward to this feud based on that? I mean, they are investing some serious character development time, you know, so we don't have just Miz, we don't have just Ziggler, we have this third character, so it's really nice that the Intercontinental Championship is getting some good exposure.
You know what this feels like? It feels like a real mid-card feud, and that's what I like.
Guys, don't we have this conversation like at least 5 times a year, though, about, oh my God, they're actually investing time into the Intercontinental title, and then 3 weeks later we'll be like, oh, the Intercontinental title.
Yes, we do. So obviously I'm not going to play devil's advocate and try to justify it or not. However, I will try to play devil's advocate and justify by stating that as opposed to having it being Big E or something, we have 2 characters that are well established as that humongous plane that's going by right now. But we have Miz and Ziggler. People know about these characters. When it was Big E, it was like, okay, who's this new guy? Oh, they're going to develop him now. It was bittersweet that with Barrett, we were going to be getting something like that, where it was an established guy, but obviously the injury happened. So my question to you, Ryan, first is sort of, does this make it different then? We have two guys that people know about and a championship.
I think the jury's still out on whether the Intercontinental title is going to remain important going forward, but I think ever since The Miz has had it and they started this whole Hollywood Miz thing and then Ziggler won it, I think ever since The Miz has won it that they've been pretty good with having it feel important and at least having a storyline surrounding it. So basically since then, I think it's been pretty good. Who knows in 6 months if it's going to fall off the map again. But they've been doing pretty good the past month and a half or so.
The last thing I wanted to bring up that we haven't really discussed is whenever we talk about a babyface in a championship situation, we always talk about them chasing the championship. Now, here's a storyline where we have the complete opposite. We have the champion that is a babyface, and the heel character, it almost makes sense that he's chasing it as opposed to winning it, because even when we got the match between them at the pay-per-view, nobody expected Ziggler to win. So how interesting do you think that is, and do you think it's being effective in that manner?
Honestly, it feels like a Chris Jericho style feud from back in the day, where it makes sense where he's champion, but he's using almost comedy to establish why he's the champion. He just keeps getting over. Like, think about Chris Jericho and William Regal from back in the Attitude Era. How Jericho was the champion there, but he'd do things like P in Regal's T and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like that. And also just the thing I bring up all the time is the title trades. You can have the title go back and forth every once in a while. This seems like a case where that can happen.
Exactly. So a lot of cool stuff happening there. For everybody listening, I would really like to know, are you buying into this? Because here's WWE sort of giving us something that we constantly complain about. Oh, the IC title is inexistent. Oh, whoever's IC champion doesn't get character development. We're getting all of that. So is it going to work? Hopefully it does. Sandow, he's benefiting a lot from this. So maybe even he'll get something out of the health situation. And
what if he comes out on top here? Like, what if this all ends with Damian Sandow being the Intercontinental Champion?
That's the awesome thing about it, though, is that anything can happen. He can easily turn on him. It can lead to a triple threat match where everybody discards him as a possible winner. He wins. Then it's sort of like a backstab. Guess what? We have options. How awesome is that?
What about this? What if Sandow wins the belt, but The Miz he says he's champion and he just has his stunt double do all his matches for him?
Oh man,
he can sit in that director's chair that he had and just watch Sandow.
Okay, now I'm just picturing, imagine that in like a Rusev feud in the future where it's like two people controlling the people in the ring. Man, there's so many options, so many awesome
things. It's almost like a video game.
Exactly. And speaking of something like a video game, not really, it's time for this week's
Tweet of the Week!
Hey Ryan.
Yeah?
What time is it?
It's money shot time!
Yes, it is! It's money shot time, baby! It's Tweet of the Week. And this week's Tweet of the Week, little bit of a sensitive topic, really. It's in regards to a little incident, let's say, that happened on Monday Night Raw. Yes, a little incident. I mean, steroids can do that sometimes. Now, I'm going to let your imagination fill in the blanks on this one, but this week's Tweet of the Week is brought to you by WWE Creative Humor at WWE Creative_ish. This week's Tweet of the Week is: it takes balls to do that, Sheamus. WWE Cesaro is nuts. Hashtag Raw tonight.
Tweet of the Week! Tweet of the Week!
Thank you, Keith, for that beautiful tweet of the week that almost justifies it being money shot time. Speaking of...
did you feel left out? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it, brother. I don't want to be involved in that scenario, but something that I do want to be involved in is something awesome that Mr. Ryan McNulty and myself are doing over at the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. Last week, we started doing something new called Fight Night, which is where he and I pit against each other in WWE 2K14. Ryan kicked my ass last week, to be perfectly honest. But this week, Ryan, I am going to redeem myself when I face off using CWs. It's going to be something pretty awesome. And something else all of you want to check out, Ryan posted a video sort of asking, has Vince McMahon lost his touch in the WWE? A lot of people have been interact with him also. You can also check out the website, ByteThat.com, which is where everything is posted, and it does not cost $9.98. You thought I was going to say 9, huh? I didn't. So
you actually said 9 twice there, but
well, true that technically. You know what I was getting into there. Just go along with it, sir, man. Okay, so something else that happened at the conclusion of last week's Raw that we were sort of just like, really? So that's going to be happening is the whole Jerry Springer situation we got going on with the Bella twins. Even their brother got involved. Their mama and papa got involved. Everybody got involved in this. What's your take on this?
You know, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this segment, they went from NXT to this. Like, talk about the biggest swing in wrestling history.
And Cesaro wasn't even involved.
Exactly. Twist. But, I mean, the Bellas didn't disappoint again because it was liquid hot garbage.
Pretty much all I have to say is that every segment they've done with this feud has been a turd. Every single one of them.
I think as opposed to the other weeks, and I was going to go into a deep, I'll do it, whatever. If it's like a turd, this sort of felt like when you're just trying to push out the very end, so it's not as bad as the beginning. That's how I sort of felt about it. Like, it was bad, but we've had way worse in the past couple of weeks.
See, I disagree. I feel like this is like the pinnacle of the turd. Like, you know how it always has that big spot in the middle? Like, that's kind of what Jerry Springer is to this thing. It was just kind of a really dumb segment that didn't need to happen. Like, why did you bring out their brother, and why did a man come out to the Total Divas theme? And like, really?
Obviously, there are a lot of questionable things that happened. I think that they are slowly trying to conclude this whole thing and just trying to move on to something else. Because obviously we actually got to see more of an evil side of Brie with like everything they replayed from Total Divas. So maybe they're figuring out a happy medium?
I've been trying to think to myself, do they bring the Divas title into this? Like, do the Bellas win at Night of Champions?
Well, that sort of brings the question of, you know, what is Brie's role going to even be at Night of Champions? We randomly got Nikki Bella shoehorned into the Divas Championship match. I mean, is it going to turn into a fatal four-way? Is Nikki going to get like pulled out of the match and they do a one-on-one or something? Because
wait, is Nikki not in the match?
No, Nikki is in the match. Brie is not.
Oh no, Brie isn't in the match. I thought it was a fatal four-way.
I'm asking you guys, what do they do with Brie?
Obviously, at some point, she'll either interfere or get shoehorned in or something. It just seems weird because it just demeans the diva situation between Paige and AJ unless they're trying to stall it. But I really just, I don't know, man. I don't know where they can go with this. What do you think, Keith?
It's a tough one. I thought Brie was in the match, so that kind of changes my whole, or like my thinking of it. But maybe Nikki doesn't walk away with the title. Maybe Brie screws her out of the title. Then it goes back to the Divas Championship situation being over here. Then the Bella's over here, and then it leads to like a Bella on Bella match sooner or later.
And to kind of go back to what you said, Juan, about, or Keith, I don't remember which one you said it, but something about they're making Brie look worse with the whole Total Divas clips, and they're trying to make it more neutral or something.
Yeah.
The thing is, people already don't care, so at least make it plainly obvious who they're supposed to get behind.
Yeah, I think that was the bittersweet part, because I think if this was the beginning of the feud and they were playing that stuff, it would have actually worked out way more better, because then people are like, ooh, WWE's giving us something different. But it's a situation of maybe it's too little too late.
Also, kayfabe alert, and this will be a good segue for you, Mr. Juan, is they have Nikki looking all, a little bit more, I don't know. Keith, how would you word it?
Flamboyant?
All right, we'll use that. But anyway, they're making Nikki out to be this horrible human being now. But, as we all know with Total Divas and them acknowledging it, she is with John Cena, who is supposed to be this noble hero. So how does this work in kayfabe that Nikki is all of a sudden turned into this, this wretched witch of a person?
Yes,
And
the
she's
word I
supposed to
wanted
be
to say
with-
starts with a W, but that's as close as I'm going.
Exactly. So how is she supposed to be with the noble hero who never does wrong, Mr. John Cena?
I've already told you to stay quiet in a different way this podcast. So I'll just say, you know what? We're not the working man's podcast. We're the smarking man's podcast now, apparently. And it's a really difficult situation, because on the same Raw, as you mentioned, on Total Divas, we know that they're in a relationship. They actually are in a relationship. We see Nikki Bella being the words that Keith is probably processing in his head right now. And then...
Oh, they're there. I just don't want to say it because this is a family show for the working man.
a pretty picture. But then on the
Yeah.
other side of the fence, we have John Cena on the same Raw, basically cutting the most honest, good guy, goody two-shoes, justifying why he is who he is promo. So then it's a situation of like, what do I get behind? What is real? What is not? Where do I invest my time? Is that at least intriguing before we move on directly into the Cesaro, the Cena Heyman segment?
Yeah, we don't want to go into that Cesaro segment at all. But I think it's just one of these cases where we're just looking a little too deep into it, because you need to be invested in it. You need to watch Total Divas to know that. You need to be able to piece that together.
Yeah, to counter my own argument, because that's what I do.
Yeah, you're smart.
They don't emphasize the on-screen duo of Nikki Bella and John Cena nearly as much as they have with Daniel Bryan and Brie. So it's not as much of a big deal. I just like to point out little things like that because I do.
Honest man's Ryan. So now
We're
getting...
going to start calling it SMS. You can fill in the blanks.
So
No,
it's like a text message or
SUS.
something?
Yeah.
SUS, that's the right one. Sus.
Interesting, sir. So now that we've been talking about John Cena, let's actually move on to this. Keith, you were actually sending out messages on the Twitter, which is what Twitter's for, about this whole thing that...
Where was I sending them out?
In twitter.com/Byte That Cast, I think is it.
Okay.
And you were basically bringing up that every once in a while, WWE gives us this real, quote-unquote, if you will, John Cena, which is where he sort of justifies, he openly acknowledges all the things that people poke fun at him about. What better way to do it in a segment involving Paul Heyman? So, are you happy we got this John Cena again, given the Brock Lesnar feud?
I mean, overall, I like this John Cena better than all of the other John Cenas because it's just like a straight, serious promo. Like, yeah, I am who I am, and that's who I am. But yeah, no, you just see this John Cena. You only see it every now and then. We saw it when he was facing Daniel Bryan, then we saw it before the TLC, and it's just awesome, where he's just like, yeah, I'm John Cena. I go see Purple Heart people, and I make their day. Why would I be a heel when I make all these people's lives?
Exactly. I mean, he got about as real as you can get. I mean, we know he does all this work with the military and Make-A-Wish, and to have him bring that into the promo really felt authentic and really, as word of the day, justified, why he doesn't sort of lash out and why he isn't giving in to the evil like Emperor Heyman was trying to convince him to.
No, excellent point, and we'll definitely get to just how amazing Paul Heyman is. But going into the whole real John Cena, I would say this is the realest version of John Cena we've gotten, because usually when we get the real one, real, it's like, yelling and like he'll poke fun at somebody or make a joke and then be all serious. And here he was actually pretty neutral. He was just stating facts the whole time. So it was hard to just sort of go like, oh, he's going into John Cena mode. And then just when you're thinking about that, he actually says, eat, sleep, be John Cena, repeat. So I think it is the perfect way and perfect contrast to this whole, he's not just going to beat Brock Lesnar. He's going to beat Brock Lesnar's ass. That really should just never be brought up again. This was way more creative, effective. It brought up a new character or face in John Cena without really changing John Cena.
All right, I'm taking bets right now. Eat, sleep, be John Cena, repeat. T-shirt, I've got $10 on yes.
This is the next Paul Heyman guy thing. I mean, everything is going to be eat, sleep, blank, repeat. I mean, we're probably going to have an eat, sleep, podcast, repeat shirt or something at some point, and that probably already exists.
Please be a Cesaro T-shirt that says "Eat, Sleep, Swing, Repeat."
What about "Eat, Sleep, Expose,
I think
Repeat"?
I've also seen that at a couple of nightclubs too. That T-shirt, but
yeah. But moving on, we've talked about John Cena definitely being way more serious. But obviously, every hero needs a villain.
Implying that I go to nightclubs. But yeah. Sorry, I had to. I couldn't let that.
You gotta have fun somehow, sir. So. Oh man, we love you, Ryan.
I do.
Thanks.
So, as I was saying, every hero needs a villain. That villain's name is Paul Heyman. Is there anything? Does Paul Heyman have a bad promo? I just wanted to ask that quickly. Is there such a thing as a bad Paul Heyman promo?
Not lately. I mean, some of the ones with like Curtis Axel and Volcanoes, those were kind of stinkers in their own way.
I thought the Volcano one was awesome.
It was alright, but like all the ones around it, like there was a while there where they were they were decent.
Great.
There was never a bad promo.
All right, well, I'll say this: when he's actually standing in the ring, it's not just a before the match few words thing. When he's actually standing in the ring and it's a legitimate promo segment, or it's a backstage promo segment, it's never bad. There was obviously times when he's with Cesaro or Curtis Axel where he just says the whole Brock Lesnar 1-1 and 21-1 and then match whatever. Obviously, that's really not a real promo. So yeah, basically he never has a bad promo when it's actually a legitimate promo.
Mm-hmm. The thing that I loved about this week's was it kind of played on... Do you remember when him and CM Punk were feuding and they had the whole fat guy in the third row promo?
Oh, yeah.
It kind of played off of that.
No, we actually got the two guys in the wife beaters, and one of them's just looking at Cena like, I can take you on. He was actually slowly walking forward like, this is my moment. I am making my mark in WWE right now.
Undertaker guy, he is not, but continue.
Well, yeah, the great thing with Heyman's, and we kind of got into John Cena after the fact, but like Heyman really kind of dug in, and it seemed like he was actually getting to John Cena, and he just kept saying like, you suck, you suck, you suck, the whole thing that we've always said, if John Cena was going to turn heel, basically the ammunition, and Heyman just kept firing that ammunition, and it was great, just making it a way, making that a way for him to beat Brock Lesnar. It was actually a relevant way to tease the heel turn, even if it will never happen. But it's a great way of sort of, hanging the carrot like, oh, this is what you need to do to beat Brock Lesnar. And I thought that was awesome. Even if Cena never does it, just the bringing it up and having that be the way that it as a way to beat Lesnar. It's just awesome.
But not to take anything away from this segment, doesn't it kind of feel like they're just repeating the same old story? Like, think about a year or 2 years ago when Kane was trying to make John Cena embrace the hate so he could beat The Rock at WrestleMania.
Just a quick thing on that. I think this is a little bit different when Brock Lesnar beat the living hell out of him, and it's more believable that John Cena legitimately doesn't have a chance. So maybe they kind of blew it back then, but I feel like this was a more appropriate time.
Exactly, and for one, they've actually been building up Brock Lesnar. He beat the streak, he decimated John Cena, and it's somebody, the person delivering the message can justify his actions, can justify what he's saying. It's Brock Lesnar, and it's not just saying that, oh, you need to go into a new phase. He's almost going on with this whole, it's a spoiler by saying like, oh, I'm telling you how you can beat Brock Lesnar. He's just breaking that fourth wall, just being straight up. Hey, you want to beat Brock Lesnar? You got to do this. It's saying the exact same thing that was going on in that Kane promo. There's no difference. The big difference, so technically there is a difference, is that everything leading up actually makes sense for this, as opposed to Kane, which is somebody that we saw for so long has been in the mid-card, has not been up there. Then when they tried it, it just felt like, you know what, you're just stalling for time. So for everybody listening, let us know, is this a segment that is really selling the storyline, considering it was entertaining and it was over like 6 to 8 minutes long? And the fact that I didn't get bored, I know almost nobody did, really says something not just about Paul Heyman, not just about John Cena, but about the chemistry that both of these men have. Now, taking a little bit of break from Raw, it's been a couple of weeks since we brought up WWE 2K15. And it's scheduled to come out in just about a month and a half or more or less. And first of all, there's really been not much else. We haven't seen any new gameplay as opposed to like 2-3 weeks ago, but we have gotten some more confirmations about the differences between the current gen, which is Xbox One, PS4, and the previous gen, which is PS3, Xbox 360. One of the sad news for the people that haven't done the upgrade is that effectively all these things that we're getting about gameplay, animations, all that new stuff is next gen only, or current gen. So if you were thinking it was just going to be a graphical downgrade for PS3 and 360, it's not just that. You're not getting the primary story mode where you can create your own guy. You're not getting the gameplay features. You're not getting a lot of this stuff. So, Ryan and myself were contemplating at some point getting an Xbox One and PS4. Economically speaking, it's just not viable right now. We can get into a whole game podcast 20 years from now. But just sort of summarizing, money versus how many games. I want to just sort of ask both of you, is it worth getting the PS3 and 360 versions when effectively we're just going to be getting a prettier picture or like lipstick on a pig type situation?
Well, from what it seems with the whole features, it seems like the PS3 360 version is probably going to be about as much of an upgrade in terms of how many things are changed as maybe WWE 13 was to WWE 2K14. Maybe it's going to be like that amount of content added, whereas the next gen version or PS4 version, Xbox One is going to be so much better. So I don't think there's any reason to even consider getting the PS3 360 version, and even if it means I wait a little bit longer, maybe even 6 months to a year longer, I think it's worth it to get the PS4 Xbox One.
Yeah, I think the comparison for like comparing it to WWE 2K13 or to WWE 13, I should say, to WWE 2K14 is going to be valid. Because if you think about the whole rival mode thing, it's kind of like those other modes that they've had the last 2 years, just meet X objective in Y match. Now, as far as getting it, I was never really convinced to get it in the first place, so maybe I'm the wrong person to talk about it, but eventually I'd like to get a next-gen console, and it'd be cool if there's a wrestling game on it.
Now, sort of as a follow-up question, even though we haven't gotten a lot of gameplay, we have seen, for example, Goldust's entrance, full-quality Randy Orton, which sort of disappointingly had the exact same animations as the previous two games, even as far back as WWE 12, not even 13. And we've gotten some gameplay, so like, for example, it's cool that if you're low on stamina and you hit a finisher like an RKO, you can actually crawl over to your opponent as opposed to just getting up and pinning them. But is that enough? Because, I mean, yeah, we can get some more stuff, but effectively we've seen the meat, or at least, this is going to be it for this year. Is that enough? For example, Keith, you first. Why do you not really care about it?
I mean, the thing that I keep going back to in my head, and I kind of counteract myself because I don't really want to play it, is that all these cool features look really pretty, but from a gameplay side, when I run out of stamina after doing an RKO for the 100th time, is that still going to be fun? Or is it going to be, I got to go through this crawl thing again?
It is a good point, and a lot of those cool little things, it seems like they're just, aside from the obviously great graphical upgrade, it seems like, all these little games and mini games and little kind of cool little features of, the guy grabs the rope when he's getting up or crawls for the pin. How much is it really going to change the game? We don't really know yet. So, I don't know. Maybe since this is the first next-gen version of the game, it's still kind of in this transition period, and maybe it's better to get 2K16 or whatever, because that's when they're really going to kind of beef up the game and make it more like a real next-gen title.
I just have a quick question for you guys, because you've been playing a lot of 14. When doing are there little mini games in it, like little button prompt grapple thingies, or no, none at all?
There's really just two, and that's the breaking point submission, which has been around for a couple years now, and the pin meter is sort of like a little game, but there's not many. Oh, and then I guess if you want to count the button mashing when you both grapple at the same time, when you do the collar and elbow tie up, but other than that,
when
there's
you're
no
playing
rock,
online,
paper, scissors.
Yeah, when you're playing online, does latency affect those games at all?
No, not really. At least not for me.
Okay.
No, it's slightly different, but it's not enough to really mess you. If you go directly from a offline game to an online game, there might be a slight difference, but it's not nearly as bad as past years.
Because basically the point I'm getting at, if they add all these little things in it, if you throw latency if you're playing online, I wonder if it'll make the game unplayable.
Well, no, they're actually like rock, paper, scissors games, so it's not as timing based. And that actually reminded me, there are those comeback sequences which also have a mini game in there. So it's more like, I pick one of three options. So it's like I'll hit X. It's just like the comeback sequences where it's like you hit X, square, circle, triangle, and hope the other person selects the other one.
So with all this stuff, obviously the games are taking a more simulation-based turn. We've talked about it in the podcast, but given there's not a lot of variety. And there's this game, it's like 5-Star Wrestling or something like that. It's going to be coming up for PS3. There's this Pro Wrestling X, which has been in development for like 50 years. There's nothing really else going on. So my re-question, because I'm bringing this up again, based on all the stuff we see we are going to be getting in future iterations of this 2K franchise, are you happy that they're adding this realism? Regardless of if it works or not. This is not about whether the mechanics work or not. Assume that all of them, like the crawl system, is fun. Assume all of that is amazing. Is that where you want this to go, or do you want it to go more in the WWE All-Stars route, or where do you want this to go?
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really care if it looks really pretty. It's all about gameplay for me. So if it all comes together and it's a really nice package, then yeah, I think it'll be awesome.
I'm probably more in favor of the sim kind of aspect. If it's more like a wrestling sim, I appreciate that they're trying to change match pacing, which I think was the biggest issue with the SmackDown franchise all the way back. I like that you hit the RKO and you actually crawl for the pin, because if you look at a lot of the 2K matches and put it side by side with a regular WWE match, there's just a lot of silly things that happen in the game that are nothing like a real match. And you'll see them in our matches on our YouTube channel. Someone's outside the ring and I'm trying to do a dive and I super kick the ropes because no wrestler in the history has ever gone for a plancha or whatever and accidentally decided to go for a super kick to nothing instead.
Exactly. No, and just to quickly summarize my perspective, I do really like that it's going into the simulation route. Once again, this is assuming it works. Because, I mean, the first SmackDown versus Raw game, I think everybody remembers it for how many things it tried to be different at, and it just failed horribly. I do think that there's so many things from previous games that they can continue to slowly bring back, like No Mercy, even Def Jam, the things like when they get up, you can sort of stall, so you can sort of catch somebody by surprise. There are things like that. So for everybody listening, I do want to send this out to all of you. Do you prefer simulation, like WWE 14, 2K14? Do you prefer more arcadey, like WWE All-Stars? Do you prefer something a little bit slower, like No Mercy, that gives you a lot of variety for the sake of sacrificing graphics? Because even back then, No Mercy was still an inferior game when you compare it graphically to something like SmackDown.
Or is Saints Row 3 the greatest wrestling game of all time? Let us know.
Exactly. It could be anything, so let us know. Twitter, or we got YouTube. So before we close out the show, a friend of the show sent us a question via Twitter machine. So Keith, why don't you bring it up, sir?
That we did. We did get a question. And this week's question, I'm not in Tweet of the Week mode right now. Okay, Brain. This question is from Noah Young at Big Hoss Puck. I'd like to know what your favorite pay-per-views of the Attitude or current era are. Mine are SummerSlam 99, Survivor Series 2011, and WrestleMania 28. First of all, thank you for your question. And what are your guys' favorite pay-per-views?
Well, hold on. So are we doing this as one pay-per-view from the Attitude Era and then one pay-per-view from the current era? Is that how we're doing it?
I think that based on the way he worded it, we've sort of been alive or watching wrestling through those two time periods, so maybe picking out just one through our lifespan as a wrestling fan, really, which is the same thing if you think about it.
Yeah.
So having said that, I guess I'll go first. I think Ryan and I may have a pay-per-view that's in common, that most people have in common with. But one pay-per-view that was very significant to me for many reasons was SummerSlam 2002. Now, it may not necessarily be the obvious choice because it doesn't really have a lot of matches that you want to go back to and watch. But think about it. You got Brock Lesnar defeating The Rock, and people were so much in the hype train for Brock Lesnar, it was ridiculous. Brock Lesnar went into that match as the heel, and The Rock, okay? The Rock was just getting killed, booed out of the damn building. Brock Lesnar dominated him. He was there. You also got that unsanctioned street fight between Shawn Michaels and Triple H. You got Benoit taking on RVD. You got Eddie taking on Edge. You got Kurt Angle taking on Rey Mysterio, when arguably I would say that was Rey Mysterio's prime in the WWE around 2002, 2004. Same thing with Kurt Angle. So it was a lot of awesome stuff.
So my pick is probably the most obvious pick, and that is WrestleMania 17. And this happened, I had just started watching wrestling in 2000, so this is the first WrestleMania I ever saw. And I happen to be lucky that it's basically considered one of, if not the greatest WrestleManias ever. I mean, it is just the most stacked of stacked cards, whether it's I think Jericho faced William Regal. There was the gimmick battle royal. You had Triple H versus The Undertaker. You had obviously the main event with The Rock versus Stone Cold.
Kurt Angle Benoit.
You had TLC. Yeah, Kurt Angle Benoit. TLC 2. I mean, how many matches can you possibly throw onto one card? And that's not even naming them all. There was a triple threat for the hardcore title too. Just crazy.
That almost ruined
awesome.
the show. Fun fact: Raven almost ended WrestleMania 17 in that match.
Yeah, there was some cord or something. He almost
with the golf
broke.
cart. Yeah, he almost went over it, and that cord was like the main power line for everything that was going on inside. And what was that exposed just there? But that's another thing.
I know. Completely other thing. So mine is the Royal Rumble year 2000. I just feel like it was the perfect storm of a pay-per-view. The main event was probably my favorite match of all time, which is Triple H versus Cactus Jack in that street fight where he got pedigreed onto the thumbtacks. It was the debut of Taz, which actually ended Kurt Angle's undefeated streak at the time via chokeout. There was that elimination tables match between the Dudleys and the Hardys, which was a really sick match. There was the Miss Rumble bikini contest which involved the Cat and Mae Young. I'll let you do some research on that one. And then there was the Royal Rumble match that the Rock ended up quote-unquote winning. It was a dirty finish. But if you haven't seen that match, a fun little fact about it is Taka Michinoku took the sickest bump in that match. So go definitely watch that pay-per-view if you've never seen it. It's my favorite.
So thank you, Mr. Young, for the question. Everybody else, feel free to leave us a comment letting us know which is your favorite pay-per-view. And not to plug the network, but everything we're talking about right now, you can actually watch it. So let us know which of the three that we brought up is possibly the best. I mean, I think everybody's going to choose WrestleMania 17. That card was perfect. I mean,
I didn't even mention Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon either.
Exactly. We got the coast to
so
coast.
Just another one.
It was a crazy pay-per-view. Everything. It just had everything. It's freaking ridiculous, man. But thank you for the question once again. And as we close out the show, Mr. McNulty, do your beautiful thing you do.
All right, well, we want to thank everyone for tuning in this week. I was actually excited that I got to participate a lot more than I originally thought. As always, just a few things I'd like to share with you. Check out ByteThat.com. All of our content in one nice little place. Also, our YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. YouTube.com/ByteThatCast. Fight Night Round 2 coming this Thursday. Me versus Juan with our created superstars. So you'll want to tune in and see those guys because both of them are pretty ridiculous. So you don't want to miss that at all. Of course, this Saturday I'll be putting up another discussion video surrounding either wrestling news or just a general discussion topic. And you can catch the one Juan mentioned earlier about asking, has Vince McMahon lost his touch? That's on our channel right now. Don't forget to interact with us on social media, whether that be Facebook, facebook.com/ByteThatCast, or our Twitter, which we have plugged multiple times, which is @ByteThatCast. So once again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.